Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, who joins us now. Governor, good to see you again, as always. Thank you for your time.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Dana.
Of course. Governor, I have to get your reaction on the Vax Pass, I guess is the funnest way to say it, that's been implemented in New York City and that New York lawmakers are in support of. I can't imagine that Georgians would tolerate, having to show proof of a vaccine to enter a building in Georgia. And don't you think, a second part of this, don't you think that's a little ironic considering it is a form of ID and I thought that ID was bigoted?
Well, I was just shaking my head when you said that about de Blasio doing this and having a vaccine passport, yet they don't support the voter ID requirement when people go to vote. It's really just the height of hypocrisy and lunacy, quite honestly, that you're seeing. I mean, really, to me, all these mandates are doing are dividing people, whether it's masks, vaccine passports, and other things. Everybody's fighting hard to get through COVID. We've all learned a lot. People know what to do. They know how to deal with it. We've got life-saving vaccines, thanks to President Trump and Operation Warp Speed, and people should talk to their medical professionals and people that they trust, their local pharmacists or whoever, and figure out whether that's the right choice for them to make to protect them and their family and others. And I think they should do that, but we don't need government telling them what to do.
Yeah, I think if government was just transparent, people would they'd be convinced to do it all on their own instead of speculating in absence of that information. And that's one thing. I mean, you've worked with some really good medical professionals that advised you throughout all of this, and I don't think every state like New York can say the same. After all is said and done, and we saw everything that happened with Andrew Cuomo, of course, I have to get your reaction to that, because if it wasn't them targeting Georgia and your work during the whole lockdown, or Florida or Texas, they were extolling the virtues of New York and how Andrew Cuomo had apparently led that state so brilliantly. As it turns out, he didn't. And now, of course, he's resigning here in just probably a little over a week. Your thoughts on that, Governor?
Well, I think he should have resigned in light of the accusations and the information that's come out. And, I'll let it go at that. I'm trying to stay humble and hard working down here, really focused on the people that elected me, the people of Georgia. And I think it's disappointing sometimes when other leaders try to focus our state in their sights. And, we're doing fine. We're working hard. We're communicating with people. We're talking to our hospital CEOs, and we're working with our schools and a lot of other people to keep things together and fight through this, just like we fought through other COVID spikes that we've seen. This is happening all over the country, and, states that have locked down and done all these mandates, they're no better off than anybody else, except we're doing incredibly well economically because we've taken the measured approach and worked on two things at once, Dana, as we talked about before when I was on your show, protecting lives, but also livelihoods, because to me, that's just as important. My daughter's teaching first grade this year. She just graduated from the University of Georgia, and she said, "Dad, don't close the schools down. We got to keep these kids in, because the kids that weren't in pre-K last year, they're just, they're not used to being in a classroom. It's taken us a lot more effort to get them going here in first grade." And I know that that's an issue throughout. And that's the thing that people, they just forget about that. There's a reason the data says we need to have our kids in school. Not that we can't, deal with certain COVID situations that every county or systems may have, but we can fight through that and make it work. And that's what we did all last year.
Have questions about. Governor, I wanted to ask you, too, about this eviction moratorium. This is something that the CDC had stated that any area that meets a certain criteria for transmission rate, that they were going to have an eviction moratorium. And it was weird to see the CDC call for something like this. You're the governor of Georgia. This is something normally that I would think that the state legislature and you and your advisors would handle, not an agency that is not a law. It's the Centers for Disease Control, not housing control. What is your take on this, and how do you respond to that? The federal government getting involved with what the state is doing in terms of rental agreements?
Well, I'll leave the legalities up to the lawyers, which I'm not one of them. But, legally, I don't even know if the president had the legal authority to do what he did. I think he just did it trying to buy time, even though he's probably going to lose in a court of law. We'll see how that plays out. The good thing for us, Dana, here in Georgia is our economy's been open for well over a year. We didn't ever close most of it, and we've given hardworking Georgians a chance. We have the lowest unemployment rate of the 10 most populous states. And so we haven't seen a lot of issues with the evictions that some of the other states may have, or a lot of the worry. Our state agency's been working with the locals to deal and help with those folks that are having issues that were maybe in industries that were displaced early on to COVID, like service, tourism, and other things. But it's incredible how well we're doing. We need more people in the workforce, so I can't imagine that people don't have opportunities out there right now anywhere in the state of Georgia, no matter what part of it you live in.